All right, here pregame. I'm a little nervous. I got my things set out. Little tokens ready that Amy and I made. The character sheets are around the table so people can choose. Amy chose her character already. I'm running the Bone Collector soon, and she chose to play Alan Up Thomas, a Yorkist archer. So I did bring some books because I didn't know if there would be a connection for my computer because it's easier to carry things on PDF, right? So I have the Call of Cthulhu 40th edition Keeper's Rulebook and the Malleus Maelstrom if I need it, but I think I will just open the book here in a couple minutes, or open the computer here in a couple minutes and use the PDFs. And then I got my little notebook ready to go for the game that I've had my notes and the outline of the adventure. And then Towton 1461 from Osprey Publishing, written by Christopher Gravitt, illustrated by the amazing Graham Turner, for what I'm going to read and reference during the game. So I hope it goes well. I hope they enjoy the luck battle, and then once that happens, then I hope we get into the meat of the adventure, and it goes well. All right. I did bring handouts too. I have the luck battle rules as well. That's for me mainly. And then pulp, Cthulhu spends, luck spends, and fighting to help out with the players. So that's my pregame, and wish me luck.
Carl Rodriguez is the GMologist, GM extraordinaire, the GMologist.
Hello, listeners. This is Amy Lee. I am the roving reporter for the GMologist Presents, better known as the actual GMologist Presents. I just allow Carl to do the show occasionally. I just pop in for special occasions, and this is one of them. So we are heading back from Chupacabracon 2022. It was great to see all of our friends up there, checking out all the new games. We had a great time. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the games that at least I played in. So day one, we can start off with our early-ish game, not quite afternoon, but our 2 o'clock game, and it was Bone Collectors, and it was a Pulp Fiction Call of Cthulhu-based style game, and it takes place in the War of the Roses, and if you know your history, it won't help you in the game. Anyways, just wanted to let you know it's a battle between the Lancastrians and as well as the Yorks in Towton. And if you know your history, it was extremely cold, very bloody, and I think there was something hiding in the forest over there, which we came face to face with. However, I'd like to report we all came out of it, maybe not unscathed, but alive. We protected our lords. However, they did a few crazy things, running off to fight big bad creatures, so we had to come up with a battle plan. Who was going to be the lord if we wiped them all out? Granted, none of us actually should be the lord, but it's always good to have a secondary plan, as well as trying to recruit from the other side. So we had one player that went from Lancastrian to York to Lancaster and New York, and I think at the end of the game he didn't even know what side he was on. But I just want to take a quick moment to interview the GM, and we'll be right back. All right, Carl, did you just finish playing your game and having a good time?
Yeah, it was pretty good. This is the second time I've run it. I ran this game, Bone Collectors, which is a pulp Call of Cthulhu game set in the medieval period. In the backdrop is the Battle of Towton. And again, second time I ran it. I ran it the first time at Good Friends with or a weekend with Good Friends. It's a biannual virtual convention run by Good Friends of Jackson Elias. And here I got to run it live. So we had a lot of really cool props. I had a map of the Battle of Towton. I had tokens for all the players, tokens for the monsters. We had a battle map for the finale. And I think it worked really well. Definitely, it's an ongoing development. I think the take-home message for me for how it played out the second time that I ran it, people really love the luck battle, which is what I call sort of the backdrop of the battle, and I never want to go. I would never recommend this either. If you're running in a historical context or in a historical backdrop of a big battle, there's no reason to go blow by blow, attack by attack. And I've kind of been able, at least with the Battle of Towton, and I did this for Call of Cthulhu Invictus in the Tudabig Forest conflict. You kind of divide it up into phases, and then you have the players kind of choose a martial skill or some other skill if they don't want to, if they're not in the thick of it and not participating in the battle. Roll it up, see what happens. I have a table where if they get a normal success to a extreme success to a fumble, and they will gain luck, lose hit points, or neither, depending on the roll. So I think it worked really well. People commented back to me that was pretty good. I mean, not pretty good. It was very engaging. Actually, someone said hella awesome. They will probably use it in their battles when they do this Call of Cthulhu or any game where they have like a big battle. And then we got into the meat of the game, and I think I added some things that I learned from the other game, which was having some weird take place during the battle that some of the players other than one could see. And then at the end, I think I'm going to kind of tweak. I need to tweak the end. It was kind of, in the first time I ran it, the big monster came out kind of early, and then the second time they were just rolling really well on the mechanic I had in mind. So I think I might go to like a countdown on when the big monster comes out, because it seemed like the combat in the finale kind of dragged on. The players are very competent. They're pulp heroes that kind of wipe the floor with most creatures they face. But it was still pretty harrowing. There was a point, for example, when one of the, Sir David Trollope, one of the Lancastrian lords, was jumped on by a creature, and the creature was he was kind of mesmerized, and another creature was trying to effectively break into his armor, pry his helmet off, and kill him, slash his throat or whatever. That did not happen because, his followers came to the rescue, or maybe it was a York that rescued him. More than likely, it was a York. York seemed to win the day both on the battlefield and in the game.
All right, that was a very good recap there. There were some rumors, shall we say, that there was, a couple of pictures maybe of the different battles that were thrown up there, and possibly could have caused some issues, with the sanity of these different players. How was the sanity monitored in the game?
So, it's a pulp game, so there's various instances where the players had to roll for their sanity, both during the battle, actually, and subsequently when we kind of got into the actual adventure. No one lost it. I mean, in my previous incarnation of this game, I did have one character go into the temporary insanity phase or part of a loss of sanity in Call of Cthulhu, and no one really went crazy, or I guess had a bout of. I don't think anyone had a bout of madness. I don't recall that happening. People were rolling pretty well. Maybe at the end, perhaps when they kind of, since the big monster didn't show up and they stopped the ritual to summon the monster, as usually happens in a Call of Cthulhu game, people went down into the monster lair, the pit, and some people lost it, but really not during the course of gameplay. This is kind of more of the epilogue. So everyone held their own. Everyone held their sanity. More people used luck to make a hard success, or change a hard success or a normal success into a hard or extreme success. So the luck was used more for skills than for sanity, at least as I recall.
All right, but I think the one question that's on everyone's mind here at the game was, did you really want a TPK, or are you as a GM pretty excited that more in the investigation, and I would say the camaraderie between the two sides, was achieved?
Yeah, I'm kind of a player's GM, as most people know, and some people criticize that. Well, whatever. But I want the players to succeed. I'm not trying to go for a TPK. I want the players to choose the way they would die. And in this one, they held their own. They're pulp heroes. They're very competent. I think a lot of people who had never played a pulp game before were shocked, surprised how competent they were. I mean, you have the main skill that the martial characters have in the 90s or 80s. I mean, they're gonna do really well. So yeah, there was no TPK that was gonna happen unless a character kind of ran and sacrificed their life for the good or the greater good. I never try to intend to have a TPK. If that's the question.
All right, so I think the last question for the Bone Collector scenario here is going to be, what made you choose the Bone Collectors for this particular con? Was there something that you were trying out? Is this a dynamic that you felt needed to be had at this particular point in time to help build camaraderie amongst people? Did it play more into you just felt like playing that game, or you were just trying to grab a little bit more Call of Cthulhu fans?
A little of both. Reporter person, I guess. So, I think the War of the Roses is very intriguing to me. You all see that history repeats. Do the player characters, and what I loved about the players in this game was that there was a couple that really knew the history and were like jarring at each other, threatening each other, taunting each other. I thought that was awesome. I love the role-playing aspect, but I think ultimately was cool, and maybe yes, that's part of the game, and you try to, as a GM, you try to direct them, but it's ultimately their choice. And there was a chance that it could have come to blows, Lancaster versus York, but I think ultimately Lord Grey and Sir David Trollope, the two noblemen from York and Lancaster respectively, said, we need to put aside our differences because there is a greater evil that is afoot, and we will quash it, and then maybe we'll get to fighting each other.
Alrighty, folks, so I hope you enjoyed the recap of the Bone Collectors, the first game that we participated in. And so I think we just need to slide over to our second game. I apologize that I wasn't quick enough to get the GM's opinion on the game, as we will be utilizing the Legacy EU battles. So if you guys are aware of the EU University battles, and I'm pretty certain I'm calling this by the wrong thing, because remember, I'm the roving reporter. I'm not always exact. But anyways, we head back to the 1880s to the university out there in, I believe it was Pine Brook, Texas. Or Pine Box. Yeah, Pine Box is people die. I get it now. Anyways, we're out in Pine Box there. And for you little fans of Texas, yes, I do think this might be very loosely based on A&M. But anyways, that's my opinion. That's not a fact, so don't quote me on that. But anyways, so we have our players show up at this point in time in the 1880s. It's a women's college. And we have our little gang of misfits here. And so we have several players. I personally played Linda.
Laura Tinsdale.
I'm sorry, I had that name wrong. Her name is Laura Tinsdale. We kept changing names as we went through the Legacy. So forgive me if I got it wrong. But anyways, my player, she was out to get a husband. She was absolutely beautiful, very, very rich. However, her secret, and we'll keep it a secret, got her to the point where she needed a husband. So she went off to the university to get herself a husband, the usual MRS degree. And Carl, you played in that game with us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your character?
Okay, so Amy and I got to play together in a game, and we played in I believe that the authors of East Texas University, which is a Savage Worlds game, are developing kind of a legacy game, which I think is a great idea. It's East Texas University Legacy. The first game that we played started in 1888, and we played we played characters who were attending the Texas Women's College, and my character was Emerald Chavez, who is a Native American and probably Hispanic American, sort of a mixed race character. And I honestly had a really great time. I really can't wait until the developers of ETU get this to print. They're kind of working through play tests and seeing what's going on in this game. And we played really good characters in 1888. Well, it seems like there's this the setup is, and I know there might be spoilers if you ever play it, but we're from Pine Box, Texas, and we have this rivalry with this town called Blackburn.
All right, and as we know, the Ravens at EU are always better. So those of you who are out there that disagree, feel free not to call in and complain. You can call Carl, just not me. Anyways, so I don't want too many spoilers out there, especially since they are still tweaking things. But I would say that was a phenomenal game.
Yeah,
and
really good.
And the GM was Jerry. As a matter of fact, Jerry GM'd for us all 3 days, and it was absolutely the most fun to play one character and then the next and then the next one, and they're all legacy of the one previous, and to watch how those characters actually diverge into what they become and how their legacy, not only the legacy of the game, but the legacy of the characters grows and morphs. And I would dare say it's probably something that'll hit close to home for most of us. So we finished up with that game. I don't want to give any spoilers on that one, but I will say this much. Made me really want new boots and a handbag. That'll be the closest clue to a spoiler I'll give you. And would pretty much conclude day number 1 for us. So tune in a little bit for day number 2. All right, my con groupie friends here. It is now day 2. Welcome back to Chupacabracon 2022 with the roving reporter, the GMologist. I had to take most of this morning sipping coffee and shopping, because as any good con goer goes, we had to celebrate not dying on day 1.
Right.
And so checking out the different booths. They were amazing booths. I really have to tell you guys that there's some really incredible products coming out. Fantastic board games coming out with incredible graphic art. There's some card games that, wow, I couldn't believe them. I even got to see the new Boomtown, which, if you don't know, it's called Doomtown, guys, but if you don't know, it's based off of Deadlands, and you can actually use some parts of the board game in the Savage Worlds game. Now, you can't get much better than that. Now, I have to tell you, there's a couple of new modules out there that I found for some games that I've never played for based on D12 and D20 rules. Don't want to say too much about that, because guess what? It's coming to a playtest near you, as well as new adventure deck cards for Savage Worlds and these incredible handcrafted tees that are based around gaming. And you can't even get near forgetting the LED light up dice, rechargeable, perfect for playing games from the 1980s, players. Anyways, enough about me and my excitement level. I want to get right to our first game, and I'm going to allow the GMologist himself to tell you a little bit about it, because it was so much fun. I actually have to go get a water and a cup of coffee and calm myself down.
So the first game I was able to run, I ran 2 games at Chupacabracon, Bone Collectors, which we talked about in day 1. But Saturday morning, My second game I ran was Pilgrim's Hope. It's available on Miskatonic University. It's definitely a convention game. I'll put the link in the show notes if the GMologist allows.
I'll think about it.
She'll think about it. Anyway, what I like, it's down dark trails. It's kind of the Western incarnation of Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, and it's set in 1885. You the characters. I'm not gonna talk about it a lot. It's the second or third time. It's the first time I've run it, but the second or third time that I've been a part of it. I've played it a couple times, and what I love about these adventures is in general, and I heard this again from other GMs that I kind of played under, is that every time you run one of these adventures, it turns out different, and Pilgrim's Hope is no exception. So the premise is that you are members of Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show somewhere in Illinois. I think I put everyone in Carbondale, Illinois, which is the location of the University of Southern Illinois, which is kind of cool. No one really used that information, but so it went really well. The characters, I would say, the players, one of them did play Annie Oakley, which was awesome, and the players were very, very focused. We had an incident at the VIII West show. They took the hook and went with it, and then they found themselves in a kind of a cult town, and a lot of shenanigans happened. And I really felt that the players were engaged. They kind of got the hooks relatively early. I mean, they got the clues. There was no kind of dithering. I used a kind of countdown mechanic for the big thing to happen, and I thought that worked really well. What do you think, as a player, GMologist person, Amy? How did you think the countdown worked?
You can call me RR, Roving Reporter. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I historically have a tendency to go off the rails and off the beaten path, so yeah, of course, I'm going to throw that out into the game. I was very excited to see Annie Oakley show up. I think Buffalo Bill actually made an appearance towards the end of the game. We had a wonderful time. I will also say that I was very excited to play in the game with a young lady that I played with at the last Chupacabracon, and if you don't know how long ago that was, it was 2 years ago. However, not on Mother's Day weekend. And we had such a great time. And I also would like to throw out there that the idea behind it was fabulous, and it was a lot of fun to play Old West figures, some of which actually existed. Now, I absolutely love the fact that I could ride my horse, steer it with my knees, shoot at things, as well as still make a performance roll. Those are all sorts of fun things. I failed at quite a few, but I never did fall off my horse. We didn't die, and it was, in my opinion, a very successful game. And what was your opinion?
Yeah, I definitely think the players succeeded really well in this game. I did have one death. The player just couldn't get away from the big explosion that you would expect in a Call of Cthulhu game. Annie Oakley kind of was the hero in conjunction with this other player who sacrificed their life. But the players kind of hit all the check marks. At the end of the game, there's like the goals for the game, and for each goal, you get a level of sanity returned to you from the brain-racking torment that you would get in a Call of Cthulhu game. So they hit all the milestones. It was really neat. They won the game, even though one character did die. So I really never tried to TPK, but it's just we couldn't think of a way, and the character agreed that character could have survived based on the die rolls that were had. And Annie Oakley almost died. That would have been very interesting, but the player rolled literally rolled an extreme success, a 0-1 on a critical roll, and was able to escape destruction. So it was a very satisfying game, and I think it went really well.
Alrighty. that was a really good recap of the game here. I would like to point out, if anyone was wondering, and you probably were not, none of the horses were injured in the game. None of them lost sanity. And yes, the horses are extremely powerful, and they can also kick some butt. So if you're looking to check out that game, you can't just play the horse, but I highly suggest perhaps checking out the stats on the horses, because they are super awesome. So much time thought out put in that game. It's wonderful. You should pick up a copy and run it, at a gaming store near you. So, yeah, at this point in time in the con, I felt like I just wanted to forget about it. So that was the next game I played. I had to kick the GMologist out of the game and off to his own game, because, I needed to go back to my roots of Chicago, even though the game is actually set in Las Vegas. So it was run actually by the creator. It is based upon the Savage Worlds rules, which, spoiler alert, second favorite game system for me. It is almost tied for Call of Cthulhu. But the only reason why Call of Cthulhu beats it is because I can talk in cat in Call of Cthulhu. But anyways, enough about my loves. Anyway, so forget about it. You are actually gangsters. And spoiler alert, stop listening if this is going to upset you. But we were gangsters trying to kill someone off and bury their body. It was so much fun. We had a lot of interplay amongst all the different characters. And within Savage Worlds, you get bennies, which allow you to re-roll something. You can change an action. You can adjust some of the play. There's so many things you can do with bennies, and it's so much fun. But with Forget About It, he also had, you guessed it, the fuzzy dice to hang from the car while we were driving. I personally played the driver, and I buddied up with the cleaner, because, in the mafia, always need someone to clean up all your messes. Anyways, so we went through the adventure. We had a wonderful time. We were not as successful as you might want to be, but I don't want to exactly tell you what happened, because, we don't ever talk about it in the mafia. So, yeah, my character, he wants to take all the attention off of them and throw it back at the GMologist, because we shoved him at a table, and I think he was playing Delta Green.
Yeah, I got to play in a Delta Green game, and a cool thing about the con, and this con is small enough that, the GM that ran the Delta Green game was actually a player in an earlier game of mine, and I had a great time playing Delta Green. I played it a few times, and I was an agent, an FBI agent, and I'm not going to spoil it because you can find a lot of these online. Suffice it to say that it was a TPK, but sometimes you have a TPK and you're like, man, that sucked, I hate this game. But this TPK was satisfying. We sacrificed ourselves for the greater good. At the end of it all, we trapped the monster. We realized that the only way to destroy the monster and stop the conspiracy or hide the conspiracy was to sacrifice ourselves. And I think there's something heroic about that, dying for the greater good in a game. And it was a fun game. The keeper, what I like about Delta Green is contemporary. You can really think about, if you are in the modern, right now, how would you solve this problem? And I think there's a lot of interplay between us as players wanting to problem solve and what the GM felt would be allowed lawfully, or what if we did something a little crazy, like start fires everywhere in Arizona. How the police and the firefighters would respond is really good. So yeah, so TPK, but we won. That's a crazy thing. Yes, it was a TPK, but we won the scenario despite that. So I really enjoyed Delta Green, and it seems like Amy enjoyed Forget About It.
Well, thank you so much for that recap. I would recap the game, but I wasn't playing in it. I was having way too much fun over at my own game. And I would like to point out, if you ever have an opportunity to play in a Savage Worlds game with the writer of Forget About It, his name is Eric, it's amazing. Not only is his story projection amazing, he makes these props himself. Imagine you're driving down the road, you got mountains on each side, and you have, well, you know, almost no gas left, and you see the mirage. At least you think maybe it's a mirage, but no, it's a gas station. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, he made a full functioning gas station for us to play with during the game, as well as the diner, and it was just amazing. If you want to, I believe you can actually check out the pictures of most of the games on Chupacabracon 2020's website. But back to the action for us. So I actually picked the GMologist back up off his chair, and we marched ourselves right back over for our next game, which, if you remember, we're playing a legacy game.
Want to switch it to me?
No. So, alrighty, off we go. We met back up with Jerry for our ET University. We are now flashing into the 1930s, so you guessed it, we're playing the grandchildren and children of the ones we played in the 1880s. Now, if that's just not going to tickle your fancy, I don't know what will. Probably not the game for you then. But now we're in the 1930s, and yes, you guessed it, we're still in school, and some of the characters changed genders, but only because they ended up as either a grandson or a granddaughter. My legacy was all women, which go women power there. However, I don't think that helped us very much. But Laura, you know, she became her granddaughter, and I don't want to say too much about it because they're actually working to tweak this game and the next legacy part, so I don't want to give away any of the little secrets, but I'll say this much, we didn't die. However, my character was unconscious for, I would say, the good portion of the game, but I will let the GMologist recap a little bit more than I am.
All right, yeah, so I really am enjoying this legacy. I think it harkens to me to like a generational game. Like you would really, if you had all the time in the world and you were playing Pendragon and you wanted to play the great story of the rise of Arthur, then you could do that in a generational game. But in this game, I think the authors are really doing a great job. I know they got some tweaks, and all of us are part of the play test, which I think is fantastic, running this at a convention game. So we're in the 1930s, and we are the grandchildren or children. I would say grandchildren, right?
Most were grandchildren.
Yeah, most were grandchildren. There might have been. I don't know. Amy and I only played 2 of the characters out of a possible 6. So, you know, we basically played the relative of the character we played in the previous game. And we got in, we were very fortunate. We got in early and were able to schedule all 3 of the legacy games, which was really fun. I've never done that in a con before. Like, I'll see part 1, part 2, whatever. The last con I was in Traveler, I only played like part 2. But this time we got to play all 3, and I feel, to me, the second scenario was the most fun. I kind of like the 1930s. There's a gangsta, kind of 30s gangsta prohibition feel. It does have a kind of very much of a Call of Cthulhu-esque kind of feel. We reference Dillinger and Bonnie and Clyde and all that kind of cool stuff. And surprisingly, we did win. I would mention also at this point that there were other tables that were playing these games, and it was really fun to kind of compare notes, wouldn't you think?
Oh, it was. And I'll tell you, what I think made the best difference for us is we had the same GM for each one of them.
Yeah, Jerry was great.
He was fantastic. I would say that, probably the most fun and the best choice for us to have.
Yeah,
He
we were
really
fortunate.
got
I think we were
into
really
the game. He was bantering back and forth with the characters as his character. He was really getting into the role playing with it. Just absolutely a joy. Made it such a pleasure. And we almost went over time because we were having way too much fun.
Right, the clock struck midnight and we were still playing. I think mainly because Jerry, in his lucky ass self, at one point when in the last fight, he drew 2 jokers, which is, you know, in a Savage World, you draw a joker for each of your mobs.
Bennies!
They get bennies, and it was we were like, it was a tough fight. It was very fun. Somehow we survived. Again, he kind of really commented that we went off the rails, but I think that was great because we were. I feel like all the groups we had were great players. We really thought outside of the box, which I think is the best thing you can kind of do in a play test, is think outside of the box. So you kind of give the GMs who are developing this game ideas and ways to really talk about or really tweak these games to cover all the sort of things that can freaking happen, because you know players, they go off the rails. And I would say Jerry was very much of a player's GM, as much as he loved getting those bennies and loving his big bad take down one of the player characters, which happened to be Amy's.
I didn't die.
I mean, eventually the dice gods kind of loved us, and my character was able to put down the big bad with how Savage Worlds works. You get those aces that give you a raise to more damage, and when I rolled damage, I got an ace on all 3 of my damage dice, and I did a lot of damage. So I guess my character was sort of the hero of the story, I would say. And we ended after midnight.
I'll say it's debatable if you were the hero.
I was the hero.
Anyways,
Big damn hero.
during the actual game,
Big damn hero.
and stop saying big damn hero.
Big damn hero.
Anyways, so during the play test, the actual writer came to the table because his niece was playing in the game with us.
She was badass too. She was
She was super badass. Without her, none of us would have been alive.
She held the line.
Anyways, I don't want to tell you too much because based on how we went off the rolls, yeah, they're probably going to tweak it. So he came over, and most of the players in our game were on top of the burning roof trying to pull people out. And his one comment was, no one was ever supposed to be on the roof.
Because the roof is on fire.
Because the roof is on fire, the whole building's smoking, and none of us died from that. And he just walked away shaking his head. So, it's always fun when you stump the writers. Anyways, so that wraps up day number 2 for us. Heading into day number 3, so we gotta go hit that cocktail lounge.
Yep.
I will have to tell you, if you ever head over to Chupacabracon, they got a little something for everyone. And don't forget to check out
The Indian food.
well, the Indian food was nearby, but that was
what?
amazing. It's called Rock and Roll. Rock and Rock Grill. It's an Indian bar. It's over near Chupacabracon. But I would also say that Chupacabracon takes some of their proceeds, most of them, and donates them to a nonprofit
called Extra Life.
What a absolutely fabulous foundation. And as someone that runs my own foundation, I can certainly tell you they are extremely dedicated to their cause. It's wonderful.
We'll put the Extra Life link on the show notes.
And we'll put their link on the show notes. So if you have a chance, check them out. They're absolutely fabulous. And we'll see you tomorrow for day 3. Whoop, whoop. Hello, my Chupacabracon fans of the recap. It is now day 3.
Day 3.
So grab your aqua net and your gel. Flip up your collars. Put on your leather jacket because we're going to ETU University, and you guessed it, the 80s.
Living in the 80s. Living in the 80s.
Alrighty. So, In the final installment of the Legacy, you guessed it, we're in the 80s. We've got our button-up guest jeans on, we've got our sunglasses on at night, and we're ready to rock and roll. But guess what we're doing? We're going on a field trip because we're going
Roller derby.
rollerblading.
No, roller derby. Roller derby. Roller derby.
So, who doesn't want to?
Ravens fight. Ravens
Yeah.
fight.
All right, alrighty. We got it, the Ravens. So, paint the Ravens, little feathers all over your face. Get out your glow-in-the-dark mascara and trace it because we are attacking the roller derby rink.
Yeah, it was a really unique, definitely a very unique scenario. Again, and this is kind of a spoiler, but I know they're going to tweak things. We're like a roller derby, and we're participating in a roller derby. There's a big emphasis on the chase mechanics in Savage Worlds.
I would like to say that this is sanctioned by the university.
We're a club team for the university, not a UIL or whatever. Was it NCAA sponsored?
Yeah,
team.
we're none
Anyway,
of that.
it's a club team. And yeah, it was really fun. It's like the culmination. We as the player characters were the sons or daughters of the 1930s player characters. There's like legacies. What I thought was really neat too, there are legacy items that are passed on from the different generations and the different incarnations
But
of
we
the
won't
game.
talk much about that
Nope.
because some of them are secrets.
Very much a secret. Yeah, there was some cool revelations at the end here that I thought they did a good job of building up to. Some of the player characters were like, holy crap, wow. I mean, I literally, right? So again, we did a great, I thought it was a really fun scenario. Again, we had Jerry as the GM, and we went off the rails.
Best GM for the ETUs you can get.
Yeah, he should get a scholarship or a prize, or he's an incredibly good GM, one of the best GMs I've played under. Very consistent. You always want that. Very fair, but not. I would say fair is probably the best term to use. Not arbitrary at all. That's always something that players kind of grit their teeth at. But made things very challenging, and you always want to win by the skin of your teeth. And I would say we definitely did. Multiple players kind of shown in that game. Again, we went off the rails, I feel, to help the play testers test out their game. What do you think there, Amy, roving reporter?
Well, seeing as I'm always going off the rails on you, I'm just adding a little levity into the game.
If we ever play Horror on the Orient Express, you won't be able to go off the rails because that's a freaking train.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I don't know about you listeners, but that sounds like a gauntlet throwdown to me. But I would have to point out that this time going off the rails wasn't actually started by me, but the professor. And she basically was our coach, and she told us after the first time going around that she felt like we had this down, but she did a little sleuthing on her own, and there was something a little bit afoot about what was going on. So she told us not to cheat. Cheating's never okay. But fill in the blank. Do what needs to be done to win the night. So I'll leave it at that for you. And I will also point out, we did not die.
We won.
We always win. Well, except for the GMologist.
No, once again, my character was a big damn hero. I got the aces at the right time. I think I aced on 5 D4 dice, which is like 20 points plus the others. Again, my character is the best, the baddest, the big damn hero.
Yeah, but I question you on that because July, she was badass herself.
Yeah, July. So one of the players,
she was throwing fire bombs like no one's business.
Yep, I mean one of the players who played in a previous game, their character through the legacy was able to have an item that I mean, rarely you kind of see this rarely in a Savage Worlds game unless it's like the Pathfinder Savage World, but they dropped the fireball, which was very appropriate and did I don't know. The only time I saw Jerry flustered was when he had a stack of bennies and he burned through all of them and none of them worked. And the big bad died. Well, big bad one died. And it was great.
Oh, yeah.
We won.
So could you say she actually threw the F-bomb?
She threw the F-bomb.
She threw the F-bomb in a fire sort of way. But anyways, thanks for listening to us. We'll wrap up here and make sure to tune in for up-and-coming events. You know what, Mr. GMologist? I think you need to do a whole segment on why you should play Savage Worlds.
Yeah, that's coming.
Coming to a podcast near you.